but Hamas is like to stop the conversation. Hamas is a terrorist group, but Hamas, shut the fuck up. That's what it is. Listen, anytime someone says, but Hamas, or do you condemn Hamas, understand that the purpose of that, you should just substitute it with, why do you care about this? Shut the fuck up about this. I don't want to hear about this. That's it. That's it. That is the only purpose, okay? Why is Hamas stealing food aid? Because they're evil. It's Hamas. What do you mean? Are you defending Hamas? Do you defend terrorism? Are you defending terrorism? Doesn't matter that it's been debunked a million times over. Doesn't matter that it makes no logical fucking sense. Oh, they're stealing aid so they can like get more support and get more people on board to fight against what? Israel's fucking genocide of the Palestinian population? Is that what you're saying? Because guess what? Hamas, in that regard, in defense of the Palestinian population, is both engaging in an act that is legal under international human rights. Legal, but it's also fucking moral, okay? This is not an assessment of October 7. Everything past that point of Israel's illegal occupation and bombardment of the Gaza Strip that is a fucking genocide, anything that the spontaneous militia has engaged in, whether it's Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, PFLP, DFLP, or even former Fatah members, anytime that they shoot and kill an Israeli soldier in the Gaza Strip, okay, inside of the Gaza Strip, they are literally engaging in a legal act. Anytime an Israeli soldier steps foot inside of the Gaza Strip, they are engaging in an illegal act. Do you understand? It's not even black. It's not even a gray area, okay? This is legally black and white. Doesn't matter what the fuck people say on television. Do you understand? It does not fucking matter. And beyond the legal argument, it is the moral thing to do, okay? Same with the West Bank. Exactly. The Jenin brigades in the West Bank are legal. They are legally defending their ancestral homeland. They have the right and responsibility recognized under international human rights to actively smoke Israeli occupying force troops because the Israeli occupying force's presence is illegal in the West Bank. It's ridiculous. No one ever wants to say the truth. And it makes me so angry, okay? It is quite literally legal. I know it's hard to comprehend this because everything you've been taught, all the social conditioning that you have heard from television, from stereotyping in the media, from every fucking book that you've read implies scary Muslim, brown, don't know about that, probably don't have a right to defend itself, but it doesn't matter. Under international rights, under international law, Palestinians have a legal right to defend themselves, okay? They do, both in the West Bank and in the Gaza Strip. Under international human rights, Israel does not have a right to occupy militarily the West Bank or even the Gaza Strip. But because they are a belligerent occupier on the Gaza Strip, Israel does not have any right to bomb the Gaza Strip. Isn't that fucking crazy? Isn't that crazy? This is just like a fundamental truth. It is literally just in the books. Like, it is quite literally the truth, okay? And yet, you will never hear that from mainstream media. No one will ever even touch that. It is the third rail. No one can say this fundamental truth. It blows my mind. People only recognize it when the people defending their homeland is Ukrainian. They're white. Only then do they recognize it. Of course, Ukraine has a fucking fundamental right under human rights to defend their borders, a sovereign nation defending its borders from an illegal and horrifyingly bloody invasion from another country, the Russians. But when it's brown people doing it, everyone goes, well, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. It's ridiculous. I have been consistent on this over and over again, just like my advocacy for a ceasefire has been consistent over and over again for years at this point.
And in Gaza, the fighting crossed a grim threshold yesterday. Palestinian health officials said 60,000 people have been killed since Hamas's October 7th terror attacks in 2023. And yesterday, the United Kingdom said it will recognize Palestinian statehood unless Israel agrees to a ceasefire by September and improves the humanitarian situation in Gaza.
Have you considered that I find you anti-Semitic purely based on vibes and my racism? I have considered that. Many people who say I'm anti-Semitic are either themselves ironically anti-Semitic or or it is just pure racism when they're like, well, he's Muslim, he's a scary Islamist. Hilarious to say that I, of all fucking people, am an Islamist. Whatever the fuck that means.
That would make the UK the second G7 country to offer that recognition. Savannah?
Matt Bradley in Tel Aviv, thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. And don't forget, you can catch the Today Show every morning on NBC or take Today when you're on the go. Just follow the Today podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
This morning, international pressure growing on Israel to end the war in Gaza as UN-backed experts warn the worst-case scenario of famine is playing out. Now, in a major break with Israel, the United Kingdom saying if a ceasefire isn't agreed on by September, it'll recognise a Palestinian state.
I've always said that we will recognise a Palestinian state as a contribution to a proper peace process at the moment of maximum impact for the two-state solution. With that solution now under threat, this is the moment to act.
Israel condemning the UK's announcement. Netanyahu saying Starmer rewards Hamas's monstrous terrorism and punishes its victims. Searing images of starving children have unleashed a torrent of condemnation and calls for a ceasefire. Despite the massive pressure, Prime Minister Netanyahu denies there's starvation in Gaza. President Trump, on his trip to Scotland this week, asked if he agrees with Netanyahu.
Some of those kids that's real starvation stuff. I see it. And you can't fake that. So we're going to be even more involved.
This morning, new satellite images showing the crush to get food in Gaza. After blocking aid for months, Israel now allowing food and medicine to be dropped from the air and delivered by land. On the ground, scores of Palestinians braving the water to try to grab what aid they can from the bundles dropped from above. Young children running into the water for basics like salt, flour and sugar. This man saying the flour is drenched, calling it humiliation, not aid. Well, we just had a statement from the families of hostages.
Yeah, all of the recognition of a Palestinian state, as I already described, is bullshit for the most part. It's just it's a way for these countries to posture against Israel in basically the least offensive way that they can do, I guess, or the least abrasive way that they can do. There are plenty of countries that have already recognized the Palestinian statehood. And even in those countries like Ireland, for example, they still can't do anything beyond. They still can't get like BDS implemented, you know? And the conditions that they offer for Palestinian statehood recognition are basically non-starters. It is by design. They are trying to actively suppress and quell the public resentment. Okay? That's it. And the funniest, the most tragicomic version of this was obviously what Keir Starmer, also known as Kid Starver, did. Okay? Because he basically gave the game away. He gave the game away by saying, we're going to recognize by September the Palestinian statehood with these other fucking ridiculous conditions, unless you let aid in. Like, what do you mean? Statehood recognition should come as a condition to let in aid? What are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about? What do you mean unless? No, state recognition should happen regardless. They're basically trying to put a timeline on Israel's genocidal activities to be concluded. while simultaneously literally giving in to all of the Israeli state's goals that are understandably non-starters for the Palestinians. Non-starters such as, yeah, I mean, they're basically saying, oh, if you comply and render some aid because it's fucking up the bag for all of us, unless you do that, we're going to start recognizing Palestinians as humans. That's crazy. I'm telling you, man. I mean, the when the dust settles, like it is so it is so fucking crazy to me. Like, I think this will be treated, you know, if history has a slant towards justice, I think this will be treated in the same way that we look back at like human zoos and shit. Like the fucking dehumanizing ways in which we have bargained with Palestinian lives. Straight up. That's what it is. It is crazy. If you're opposed to a two-state solution, why are you recognizing what? You cannot have a state, especially one that is currently actively being genocided, without without a military. Like, what are we talking about? No standing military implies no sovereignty. That is literally what Israel wants, so they can fucking turn Gaza into the West Bank once they're done with the with as much ethnic cleansing as they can get away with. That's what Mark Carney has also added. Part of the reason why these fucking leaders are even entertaining this notion, by the way, is because it's gotten to a point where something must give. Okay, that's it. That's why. So they think that this like bullshit, this fucking bullshit is going to be enough to soothe the interests of the masses. You are a rampant anti-Semite and God is going to punish you. That's such a funny thing to fucking say to someone like myself. I'm an anti-Semite because I say Israel's genocide has nothing to do with Judaism. You, on the other hand, someone who is pro-Jew, are saying, no, you don't understand. Israel's genocide is actually a foundational tenet of Judaism. Between us, who do you think is anti-Semitic? Me, a guy who says Jews are not a monolith and anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism, and that Israel's violent actions have nothing to do with Judaism or the international Jewish community? Or you, a guy who says, no, actually, Israel's genocide is good and it's doing it for Jews? Who between us is closer to Hitlerian politics, you think? Go ahead, answer. I unbanned you. The gall of these fucking morons. It's so funny. It's just like these guys, they fall apart under like a fraction of scrutiny. That's it. Is Zoran younger than you? No, we're literally the same age.
hostages still being held inside Gaza right now, also criticising the UK's announcement as rewarding terrorism. I think they, like many here, want their loved ones home first and then a rapid end to this war. Guys?
Yes, such a crisis. 662 days since they were taken hostage by Hamas. All right, Ian, thank you.
The sheer number of deaths in Gaza is bleak and horrifying, and it also tells the story of this grim war. Sky News has been given exclusive data showing every Palestinian who has been killed in Gaza since the war began. It's from the Gaza Health Ministry. Israel disputes this data, saying the ministry is run by Hamas, and it's criticized the numbers for not distinguishing between fighters and civilians. But Sky News has independently verified the data, which includes names.
You know what's crazy? I know what Israel's assessment is. They say they use the same numbers. They use the same numbers that the Hamas-run Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza has. They just say every person that died is Hamas. Literally. There are markers on Israeli news, I remember, where they would straight up be like, every person that has died is Hamas. Like all the babies, Hamas.
For the first time, dates of death. That helps us to understand how the war has unfolded, how Israel has pursued its targets, and which have been Gaza's deadliest days. This is Ahmed al-Hatta. He was Hamas's justice minister, and he was killed when an Israeli airstrike hit his home in the early hours of Tuesday, the 18th of March. But also killed in the strike were his wife Fatima and 6 of their children.
By the way, this person is a civil servant. I need you to understand something. That is a war crime. Obviously, additional war crime considering that you also killed his entire fucking family. Like, this is basically like assassinating the attorney general and taking down the entire city block that the attorney general of the United States lives in. This person, because remember, Hamas is both a political party that governs Gaza, so every single person that is involved in civil affairs is literally a Hamas party member. That doesn't mean that they took up arms against Israel and participated in October 7th. There's a separate group, the Al-Qassam Brigades, which is the militant wing of Hamas. Okay? So when Sky News promotes this, or when Sky News is like talking about this, if they don't mention that reality, they're basically defending Israel's actions against a civil servant. Israel has used this designation over and over again to actively and deliberately target civil servants over and over again, like the police chief, like the fucking education ministry, like the secretary of education in the Gaza Strip. Like they kill him, they kill his whole family, they go, oh, it's Hamas.
The youngest, twin girls, Banan and Janan.
So understand that, like, just because his family was slaughtered alongside him, like, it's not fucked up because his family was also targeted. It's fucked up because he was targeted. It is illegal to be targeted. It is illegal for him to be targeted like this.
He's just 6 years old. While Ahmed was a clear Israeli target, his family were the collateral damage of that morning's attack. That Tuesday, the 18th of March, was the day that Israel broke a fragile ceasefire. By sunrise at 6 a.m., at least 242 people had already been killed. But by the end of the day, that number stood at 465 people, making the 18th of March one of the deadliest days of the war. And since then, more than 8,500 people...
No, he was the clear Israeli target. It's just they should say it's illegal. Yeah, this is from March 18th. Hamas announces that 5 senior members of its political bureau were killed yesterday evening in the Israeli airstrikes on Gaza. 6 government officials have been killed in Israel's latest strikes. Head of government work follow-up, Issam al-Dalis. Yasser Harb, member of the Hamas political bureau. Mr. or Mohammed al-Jamazi, member of the political bureau of Hamas. Ahmed al-Hatta, Undersecretary of the Ministry of Justice. Major General Mahmoud Abu Watfa, Undersecretary of the Ministry of Interior. Martyr Commander Major General Bashar Abu Sultan, Director of the Internal Security Service. Out of all of these guys, even this guy is involved in civil affairs, but Yahya Sinwar was also a part of the general internal security service within the Gaza Strip, so you can make an argument that they're still technically can be combatants, but even then it's fucking bullshit. Okay? Understand that these are not valid military targets. These are members that are involved in state affairs, involved in civil governance. Israel has openly declared them enemies. Israel has openly targeted them. Israel has celebrated targeting them. They're not even fucking combatants. Okay? They're not. Barak Ravid says, under the Netanyahu government, Israel is suffering its biggest diplomatic collapse since 1948. Oh, womp womp. I wish that was true.
Have been killed in Gaza.
Hamas is not civil governance, Lamau. Yes, it is. Yes, you're wrong. It is. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. Again, this is not a gray area, okay? You are wrong. You're just wrong. That's it. And what you can do in this situation is recognize that you're wrong and shut the fuck up. Or you can continue being wrong. It's one or the other. I suspect you'll go along with the other. You are wrong. Hamas is civil governance. There is a political bureau within Hamas, and then there is the militant wing. I already described it. The Al-Qassam brigades are the militant wing of Hamas. Okay? This is rules of war. I don't know why chatters are so confident. I don't know why chatters are so fucking confident about the notion that that they're just simply wrong. Okay? Hamas is the official government of Gaza. Hamas has a civil governance political division. Ismail Haniyeh, for example, the principal negotiator that Israel killed, had never picked up a weapon in his life. Ismail Haniyeh was the chief of the political wing of Hamas. He was a civilian. Israel still assassinated him in Tehran, as a matter of fact, in a totally sovereign separate nation in Iran. But he was still a member of the Politburo. So the Hamas government aligns themselves with terrorists? Oh my God, this is a joke, right? The designation of terrorism is so that you say dumb shit like this. You understand? That's the whole point. So you say, oh, the Hamas government aligns themselves with terrorists. Everyone is considered a terrorist under the American government's vision, under the Israeli government's vision. Okay? The only way you would understand this reality is if fucking, I don't know, they assassinated Pam Bondi or something. If China assassinated Pam Bondi. Other notable examples of both civilian and military wing includes the IRA, Zapatista, Hezbollah, and the PKK, yes. Anyway, ask yourself why 22 months in you still fundamentally misunderstand this thing. To put it in American terms, it would be like if Iran decided to assassinate the EPA secretary because Trump and his military decided to bomb Iran. Yes. There are 2.2 million people living in the Gaza Strip before the Israeli genocide. Okay? They have schools. They had schools. They had mosques. They had hospitals. Someone has to manage all of these things. They had a government. Do you think that they just literally were living in fucking mud huts and tents? They had universities. What they are both doing is terrorism. No, that is not the truth, okay? The vague designation for terrorism doesn't stand here because Israel is the greatest terrorist, okay? Israel in this, if your metric for terrorism is well, both what Hamas is doing and what ISIS is doing, then Israel is fucking a far greater terrorist. America's a far greater terrorist than both of these guys, okay? The fuck do you mean? Hamas is a part of a unified resistance front. It has a nationalist, emancipatory goal. Hamas does not operate outside of historically occupied Palestinian territories. They never have, and they never will, probably. ISIS, on the other hand, is an exterminationist, what you would consider jihadist group, okay? They have colonial ambitions. And they're also aligned themselves with Israel quite frequently.
The Al-Hatta family we mentioned at the start, here in green. They are just one family among thousands of people who have been killed. And they are among more than 60,000 Palestinians who have died since the start of the conflict on October the 7th, 2023. Now, this is the full data set of every death per day since the war began. The numbers here paint a very clear picture of how the conflict has evolved over the last 21 months. And here in green, you can see the deadliest days of the conflict, days when there have been more than 450 deaths. Most of those at the start of the conflict. There have been 17 of them in total since October the 7th. And we found a pattern here in the data. On every one of these deadliest days, there was a larger share of people who were killed alongside their family members. On average, 44%, nearly half of people who died were killed alongside at least one family member, compared to 30% on the other less deadly days. So our analysis...
Both in Hamas and Israel, man? Wait, really? Do you think the Jewish partisans were terrorists during the Holocaust? Or do you think that terrorism was an appropriate designation for the Nazi state? There are no both sides in a genocide. You sound like a fucking moron. Of course people are going to resist against genocide. Don't try to do this both sides bullshit. Okay? I already described this over and over again, but I will continue to describe this. Hamas and every single Palestinian that takes up arms against the Israeli genocide at this moment, or even before this moment, since October 7, is participating in a legal act of resistance that is recognized as a legal act of militant resistance by the international humanitarian laws. Okay? Israel, as the belligerent occupier, is engaging in an illegal act by bombing Gaza. A single bomb dropped in Gaza is an illegal act. Doesn't matter. I didn't say October 7 is legal, okay? We're not talking about tactics. We're talking about what has happened since October 7. Every single Palestinian that takes up arms and kills an Israeli soldier in the Gaza Strip is quite literally engaging in a legal act of resistance under international human rights. It is a legal act of resistance, and it not only is it legal, it's moral. Like, it's literally both legal and moral. It's a twofer. It's correct. As far as October 7 goes, yes, there were acts of atrocities that took place on October 7, conducted by the Palestinian resistance front that is comprised of every single Palestinian resistance movement that chose to take up arms in this military operation. And yes, there were atrocities that took place. Okay? And under international law, you are supposed to set that standard against the violence that the population has seen up until that moment. And in that process, you are supposed to adjudicate evenly. You're supposed to look at what kind of violence unfolded. If someone is like fucking going around like spraying children, yeah, they're going to go to prison. Okay. If there's a Truth and Reconciliation Committee, that militant would go to jail. If there's someone going around doing mass rapes, that person would go to jail. It's normal. It's understandable. Okay. Having said that, kidnapping operations, for example, or taking prisoners of war like Hamas did, that would be most likely, and I don't know, I'm not a fucking international human rights lawyer, I'm not a fucking judge at the ICJ, but that would be matched against why this happened. People would look to the underlying causes of why October 7 happened, and then they would make this assessment on whether this was an appropriate act of violence, even if it is technically illegal under international humanitarian law. Because the Israeli blockade that has existed since 2006 in the Gaza Strip is